Good day students and welcome back once again for your history class. So in today's class we'll be revising the history portion which you have for your unit test. So we will begin with chapter 7 non-cooperation movement. So please pay attention to the important points that I'll be revising during the video. So we know that the period from 1920 to 1947 is known as the Gandhian era, and Gandhiji led the freedom struggle with the principles of truth, non-violence and satyagraha. Satyagraha means to make an unjust person aware of truth and justice through patience, and also to bring about transformation in his or her views. So the first satyagraha was launched in Champaran, which was successful. The Kheda Satyagraha too was launched as land tax was forcibly collected by the government. Then the workers in Ahmedabad also went on a hunger strike because they demanded for increase in salary. The Rowlatt Act. So the Rowlatt Act was passed on 17th of March 1919, and this act gave right to the government to arrest anybody without any warrant or imprison anybody without any trial. An appeal was also prohibited against the punishment given through this act. So therefore the Indians called the Rowlatt Act as the Black Act. And on 6th April 1919, Gandhiji launched a satyagraha against this act. The effect of Rowlatt Act was the Jallianwala Bagh massacre. On 13th April 1919, General O'Dwyer ordered his army to fire on unarmed Indians who had gathered in the Jallianwala Bagh. Many people lost their lives in this massacre, and as a protest against this massacre, even Rabindranath Tagore gave away his title of Sir, which was bestowed on him by the British government. The movement, which was started by Indian Muslims to support the Khalifa, was called the Khilafat movement. And Gandhiji supported the Khilafat movement in order to bring about Hindu-Muslim unity in the country. Now, according to the resolution of the non-cooperation movement, a program was framed to boycott government offices, courts, foreign goods, government schools and colleges. In 1922, police opened a fire on a peaceful procession at Chauri Chaura. Now this angered the people and they set fire to the police station, in which many police officers were killed. Hence Gandhiji suspended the non-cooperation movement. After he suspended the non-cooperation movement, Gandhiji was arrested in March 1922 and thus was sent to 6 years of imprisonment. The Swaraj Party was established in 1922. The members of the Swaraj Party strongly opposed unjust policies of the British, and they demanded that responsible government should be given to India in future. Some of the prominent leaders of the members of the Swaraj Party were Motilal Nehru, Madan Mohan Malviya, Lala Lajpat Rai and R.C. Kelkar. The British had appointed a commission under the chairmanship of Sir John Simon. The Indian people boycotted this commission wherever it travelled by shouting slogans like "Simon, go back." The Nehru Report. Under the chairmanship of Motilal Nehru, the Nehru Committee had started the Nehru Report. Now, the Nehru Report consisted of proposals of establishment of self-government, then implementation of adult franchise system, and linguistic division of provinces. This report was known as the Nehru Report. Young leaders like Pandit Jawaharlal Nehru, Subhash Chandra Bose demanded for complete independence, that is, Purna Swaraj. So, on 31st of December 1929, Pandit Nehru unfurled a tricolour flag and a resolution was passed in which 26th January was declared to be celebrated as Independence Day. So with this we complete revising the first chapter which you have for your unit test. The next chapter that we'll revise is chapter number 8, the Civil Disobedience Movement. Okay, so we know that Gandhiji had demanded cancellation of salt tax and monopoly of the British government for manufacture of salt. This demand of Gandhiji was rejected by the British. Therefore, Gandhiji launched Satyagraha all over the country. On 12th March 1930, Gandhiji began his journey with 78 of his followers from Sabarmati Ashram. And on his way towards Dandi, he passed many villages where he appealed the people to join the Satyagraha. So, on 6th April 1930, Gandhiji broke the Salt Act by picking up salt, laying on the seashore of Dandi, and thus began the civil disobedience movement. People began Satyagraha in various parts of the country. We are aware of the Peshawar Satyagraha, then we are aware also of the Solapur Satyagraha and the Dharasena Satyagraha. Gandhiji was arrested on 4th of May and Sarojini Naidu led the Dharasena Satyagraha, which was in Gujarat. In Mumbai too, Babu Genu gained martyrdom after being crushed under a truck which was carrying foreign goods. Some of the features of the civil disobedience movement were that people from all walks of life participated in the civil disobedience movement. Even women in large numbers participated in the civil disobedience movement. Roundtable conferences were organized by the British Prime Minister Ramsay MacDonald between 1930 to 1932. In the first roundtable conference, the Indian National Congress did not participate, and therefore this conference proved to be meaningless. Now Gandhiji was released from prison and a pact was signed between Gandhiji and the then Viceroy Irwin, this pact was known as the Gandhi-Irwin Pact. In the second roundtable conference, the Indian National Congress participated, but there were differences regarding the issues of minority. So therefore, Gandhiji became disappointed. He tried to bring about unanimity among the decisions among the members, but it proved to be useless, and therefore he became disappointed and returned back to India. Now, Mahatma Gandhi ji and Dr. Babasaheb Ambedkar signed the Pune Pact. According to this Pune Pact, separate electorates for the Dalits was cancelled, and a provision for reserved seats was made. Now, since the Indian National Congress boycotted the third roundtable conference, this roundtable conference too proved to be futile. Once Gandhiji returned to India after the second roundtable conference, he decided to start the civil disobedience movement, and he was immediately arrested. So in 1934, Gandhiji withdrew the civil disobedience movement. Thus, the historic event of the civil disobedience movement came to an end. So with this, we have finished revising the 2 chapters which you have for your second unit test. In your live classes, your teachers will discuss the question answers and revise again with you these chapters. Let us now revise the civics chapter number 4, the Indian judicial system. So the legislature is the one that makes laws, then the executive implements the laws, and the judiciary gives justice. Now, in order to resolve conflicts in accordance with the laws, an unbiased judicial machinery is required. Let us see the structure of the Indian judiciary. So, India is a union of states, and the center and the constituent states have a separate legislature and executive, but there is only one judiciary for the whole of India. So at the apex we have the Supreme Court, under which we have the high courts, under which we have the district courts, and then the other lower courts at the bottom. The Chief Justice of India heads the Supreme Court, and he is appointed by the President. The President also appoints the other judges of the Supreme Court. To enable the judges of the Supreme Court and the High Court to work fearlessly and to carry out the function of giving justice, the Constitution lays down certain provisions, like a legal expert or one having served as the High Court judge or an experienced advocate is considered eligible. The judges are appointed by the President so that to avoid any political pressure. The retirement age of judges of the Supreme Court is 65 years and the High Court is 62 years. The salaries of judges are also drawn from the Consolidated Fund of India. Then personal criticism cannot be made on the judges. The Parliament cannot discuss the decisions of the judges. Now let us see what are the functions of the Supreme Court. As a federal court, the Supreme Court has the responsibility to settle disputes between the center and states, and the states on one side and the states on the other. It may also give orders to relevant authorities for protection of the fundamental rights of citizens, to review decrees and orders of lower courts and also review its own decision. In case the President asks for the advice of the court to understand the legal aspects in matters of public importance and provide the necessary advice. Judicial activism. So the court has become more active in the past decade in order to provide legal protection to the marginalized sections in the society, like children, women, the weaker sections of the society, etc. This is known as judicial activism. Judicial review. If any law passed by the legislature or any act of the executive violates any provision of the Constitution, then it is declared illegal and is struck down by the court. This power of the court is called as the judicial review. PIL, or public interest litigation. The public interest litigation refers to litigations filed on issues of public importance. High Court. There are 24 High Courts in India, and the judges of the High Court are appointed by the President. The district or lower courts are courts at the district and the taluka level, or the tehsil. Now there are two main branches of law, the civil law and the criminal law. The civil law refers to matters related to land, property, rent, etc. Whereas criminal laws refers to theft, dowry, murders, etc. So with this, we have finished revising the 2 chapters of history and 1 chapter of civics. Okay, the next chapter of civics will be revised with your teacher, your history teacher, in her live classes. Please see that you study everything that is provided to you and keep your assignments and notes ready to be shown to the teachers when you are asked to come back to school. Okay, so all the best and take care of yourself.